everybody, and welcome to the Girls with Guts podcast. We are so excited to have you here. We've been just itching to get this content out to you and talk to you and bring you in, or bring in people that have interesting conversations and stories to tell when it comes to life with chronic illness and recovery and all that good stuff.
Yes, and it's been such a long time coming. I think we initially started talking about this months ago, maybe even August, and we're finally here. We are so excited, and we really hope that you're excited too. So first of all, though, I think we should introduce ourselves.
Probably important.
I'm Elena Martella.
And I'm Nicole Dambro.
And the interesting thing about us doing this podcast is that we are doing it remotely from two different parts of the United States. I'm based in Cincinnati, Ohio.
And I'm in Los Angeles, California.
And why don't we tell everybody what we do? So I am a morning news person. I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's fun stuff. And I do the news here in my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio. And aside from that, I don't really practice it, but I'm also a certified yoga instructor, and I'll help friends and family out, but I'm not a formal teacher in a studio. I do some keynote speaking as well.
Yeah.
And I'm on the board for Make-A-Wish.
Which is
Ohio,
awesome.
Kentucky, Indiana. Yes.
Such a beautiful thing. You were a Make-A-Wish kid yourself, right?
Yes.
When
so
you were a
I actually
teenager.
got a wish granted too, because my illness what was when I was a teen. We'll get into that. But so I did get a wish granted, and my wish was to shadow Matt Lauer, which, given the circumstances that we have found Matt under, I'm just going to say my wish was to shadow the Today Show. And and then I got to do that. And ironically, the news station that I work at right now is an NBC station. So it's with the Today Show, and we do cut-ins during the Today Show now.
Oh my
so it's really
gosh.
interesting, like how much has come full circle. Yeah, but Nicole,
Elena, I didn't know
you
that.
say you didn't know that?
No.
Oh, well,
That's so cool.
So now, Nicole is giving me, high praise, but she deserves high praise because she's a woman of many hats and is extremely talented. So tell us about you, Nicole.
Yeah, so I started off as a professional dancer. I was a Miami Heat dancer before I moved to Los Angeles, and I backup danced for artists like Pitbull, Jennifer Lopez, Chino y Nacho, some of my favorites. And then, I retired from dance and I moved to Los Angeles to pursue acting. So since I've been here, it's been a lot of commercial acting, independent film. So shout out to some of my films like Groupers and The Axiom, or if you like kitschy horror film, like Pitchfork is for you. There's a dance number in it. Like, you can't go wrong. So,
And
go
she's
watch 'em.
amazing too. Go watch them. She's so talented.
Oh, thanks.
I can't say enough about her acting skills. I know when I watched them, I'm like, oh my gosh, seeing you in your element is actually really, really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's weird. My
Yeah.
mom's like, it's you, but it's not you. And I'm like, oh,
It's
yeah.
very interesting. It's so weird. Yeah, but I love it. Love it.
Thanks, Elena. But yeah,
You're
now
welcome.
we're transferring our talents to producing this podcast. So now we're learning how to speak into a microphone, and we're, doing our video setups and teleconferencing. There's a lot going on. There's lights over there. There's backdrops. There's all these things. But it's exciting to kind of see, take this on the road.
Yes, it's awesome. It's exciting. It's very technical.
Yeah.
Major respect to anybody who does behind the scenes work, editing, producing, sound. There's so much that goes into it. I can't say it enough. Like, you guys are amazing. Anybody who does that for a living.
Truth. And, it's really is worth all the frustration and the learning curves, because we are just so motivated to bring you guys, our story, to connect with you through other people's stories, and to really just create a space for you to come and feel like you're part of a community.
For sure. And that's our whole goal with this podcast is to be that outlet for you when you feel like you don't have anybody else.
Exactly.
What's also more interesting would be how we met. Nicole, do you want to tell everybody how we met?
Ooh, I love the story. So we met at a wedding in Ohio, at our friend's wedding. Shout out to the Swickards. It was gorgeous. Let me just say that. But
The
yeah,
most beautiful wedding that I've ever been to, probably ever will be to in my life.
yeah, there's no pressure on my wedding now because I know I can never compete with that. That's just facts. But so we were sitting down next to each other at the wedding table. They had us sat next to each other, and I noticed that Elena wasn't eating much of her dinner, even though it looked amazing. And I also wasn't because I have special dietary needs. And of course, my curious mind was like, oh, why aren't you eating your dinner? And you said,
I said that my intestines twisted around each other and I have a really restricted diet. And then we were just kind of like, whoa, this is fate right here. Fate
Because
was
mine did too.
working to introduce us that night.
it was crazy. She said that, and my jaw was like on the floor. I was like, wait a minute. My intestines twisted too. This is crazy. So, like, kismet, total kismet. You want to talk about like a moment. And this was, I mean, I was right in the middle of all my surgeries, and Elena had gone through all of the surgeries. Well, for a while, she's been going through it. So she was just kind of like my warrior buddy and just my person that I could talk to about everything that I was experiencing because I didn't really have anybody who had gone through that, let alone somebody that I just sat down next to at a wedding, which is crazy.
Exactly. And then that's kind of how we decided. Well, we first of all, we were friends, obviously going through our current our issues that we were both dealing with. We were friends for about a year and a half, and we both have had ups and downs through that year and a half that we had known each other. And we finally decided, Nicole actually approached me about wanting to start a podcast, and I had actually been wanting to start one as well with her. And so it was kind of like everything aligned because we realized that through all of these trials and tribulations that we had been going through, we always had each other. We had that support system to go back to talk to when we need help, for guidance, for reassurance that, everything's going to be okay. This is normal, if you could even call it that. But a lot of people don't have that. And so that's why we started this podcast. And we hope that through Girls with Guts, we can be that outlet for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was nuts. I mean, my friend called me and was like, hey, do you want to come in and play around in the studio? And when you go through something traumatic, like medical trauma especially, it's so important to have a creative outlet. Or a lot of people find themselves after going through it that they want to share with people how they're feeling, how they're doing, because they maybe didn't have that, which, with my case, and I'm not sure about you, Elena, I found an online community while I was going through it, and it gave me such strength. And I just wanted to give back to all those people who had been there for me. Like maybe if I could just be that person, that support system for one person, it would just make the biggest difference in the world. And so when he called me and was like, do you want to play around? Immediately I was like, I can't do this by myself. My story's not as powerful by myself. And so immediately I was like, I have to call Elena. And as soon as I called her, she was like, oh my God, I had a dream about this. And I was like, ah!
Yes, it was so meant to be. And it's interesting that you say that you were able to find a community online. So when I went through my illness, I was 17 years old. I was a senior in high school. And this was before, social media. This was before Instagram was a thing. And, a lot of people find those communities through hashtags on Instagram. And I think Facebook was just rolling out around that time. So I really didn't have that community that you were able to find online that you found, Nicole. So, I kind of Googled. Google was my friend during that time. I remember Googling a lot of different things like celebrities who have gone through this, like celebrities. I thought it was, I'm like, if somebody who I see on TV all the time goes through this and they're doing fine, I can do this too. And so that's kind of where my mindset was going with it.
Totally. You reach out for anything because it gets to a point where leaning on your family and your friends gets really exhausting because it's just as traumatic for them to be going through it with you and not having any answers or not having any insight into what to expect or whether or not what you're feeling is normal. Or for me, like whether or not I should go to the emergency room was always a big one. Like I just, I didn't know how to think or feel or cope with these feelings. And so it was just so nice to know that other people had gone through it, even though I had to comb through Google to find,
Yes.
people's blogs even. Like I'm not even, it didn't even need to be like super legit. Like I wanted to read your personal blog about what happened to you because maybe something I could, maybe there was something I could connect to. But anyway.
Exactly. Yes. And so I think we should share our stories now.
Yeah, let's drop
So
it on
everybody can
'em.
kind of hear. I'll go first.
Since yours happened first.
Since mine happened first. It's been a long time coming for me with my intestinal illness. So I'll start from the beginning. I was 17 years old and a senior in high school, and I was obsessed with running, like to the point that I would wake up before school at 4 o'clock in the morning, run before school, go to school, run again after school. And that was normal to me. And, it was taking a complete beating on my body. Everybody could see it. I could see it, but I didn't want to admit it. Like I was losing weight. I was losing hair because of running so much of that nutrition that I was eating out. And I was skipping social activities as well. Like friends would ask me for sleepovers on the weekends. I would turn it down because I would be afraid if I woke up the next morning, I wouldn't be able to run because we would go do something else. I would skip family vacations. I missed a couple of cousins' graduations because I just put myself in this box of a running world. And it was obsession. It was crazy. And looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck was I thinking? But, so September 8th, 2008, it was a normal day for me. I woke up, did my crazy girl run before school, went to school, ran again, and then I was visiting my grandma at her nursing home. And at the nursing home visit, I started to feel this intense pain in my abdomen. And it was so, so severe. It felt like my insides were on fire. That's the best way I can explain it. It felt like my insides were on fire. Or do you know like those things that people, when you burn your arm, like people when you like twist your arm type thing?
Indian burns.
Like the skin. So that's what it felt like on there. So it felt like that in my insides. Anyways, it was so severe, and a number of hours passed, still feeling this pain, and I was looking out my bedroom window that night, just thinking, man, I want to die right now. Like I remember looking at the moon and saying that, and be careful what you wish for, because that is exactly what ended up happening, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. So I got up thinking, maybe I have to go to the bathroom. So I got up, went to the bathroom, and I passed out because I hit the vanity. And I think my dad heard me, so he found me passed out. Felt my pulse. It was racing at 167 beats per minute, and he called 911. So the ambulance came, took me in the ambulance and rushed me to the hospital. And I just remember being in so much pain, and I also had to pee. Very weird, but I did. And right when we got to the hospital, my mom was there, and like she was at the ambulance. When I came out, I saw her standing there, and I'm like, "Mom, hi! Like, take me to go pee. I have to go to the bathroom so bad." And so she was helping me to the bathroom and kind of holding me because I was in so much pain. I couldn't walk myself. I needed her support to get there. And thank goodness, because we got in the bathroom, and since she was holding me, she couldn't lock the bathroom door. And I sat down to go to the bathroom, and at the same time, I started to thrashed about a few times. She said I looked like boop, boop, boop. And then all of a sudden just went limp. And she said, I think she's dead. And at that same time, a nurse came in with a urine sample cup and, we're going to need a urine sample. And my mom goes, I think she's dead, because I had indeed coded. So the nurse called a double code and a stretcher was pulled in. They rushed me out. And during this period, I was actually on a separate journey, you could say. And I'll go ahead and share it. I think Nicole's only heard this twice, actually.
It gets me every time, though. It doesn't get easier.
Yes. So I was on the separate journey, and I was walking down a beach, and next to me was a figure dressed in all white, and I think it was Jesus. I can't be sure, though. And we were walking and walking along this beach, and there was a big bright light at the end of the way. And we kept walking, and it was the most peaceful, tranquil walk that I've ever been on in my entire life. And at the end was a gateway. And I looked into the gateway, and behind the gateway was my great aunt, who was my favorite person in the entire world. And she had her arms outstretched, and she said, "Come to me, baby." And I remember wanting to go so, so badly. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I get to be with my Aunt Dodo again. Her name was Fedora, but I called her Dodo. And so I started to push the gateway open. And then the figure next to me said, "Stop, it's not your time now." And then I woke up, and there were doctors surrounding me. And I remember seeing my mom and my dad at the back of the room crying. And my stepdad, I saw all three of them. They were crying their eyes out. I'm like, why are they crying? Like, I had no idea what was going on. I looked to the doctor that was to my right, and I said, "Am I going to die?" And the doctor goes, "We're just going to do the best that we can." And it was in that moment that I was like, whoa, like things aren't looking that great for a future for me right now. And, in Hollywood movies, Nicole's an actress, by the way, in Hollywood movies, they say that your life flashes before your eyes. And, my life didn't flash before my eyes, but I thought of the could haves, the should haves, the would haves. I thought of, I thought of my mom who, would be so sad without me. I thought of how I would never go skydiving. I don't know why I thought that, but fun fact, I did end up going skydiving. I thought of, how I would never get married and walk down the aisle, which at this point might not happen anyways.
Oh, come on. Come on.
Anyways, yes. So, I thought of all those things, and they wheeled me back for emergency surgery, and as it turns out, my intestines were twisting around each other the entire time, and it's called a volvulus, and I had died of sepsis, and my intestines were so dead that when the doctors went in to see how everything was going, they actually crumbled in their hands. So they left me open for about 24 hours to see how the remaining intestines, they had to take 15 feet of them out. To see how the remaining 5 or so feet that were left in there would heal. And they took me back in for surgery the next day and saw there were signs of healing, which was great news. So they were able to close me up. They gave me an ostomy bag, a temporary ostomy bag, it turned out to be. They weren't sure what it would be at the time. Thank goodness it was temporary. I was able to have a reversal eventually, but they gave me an ostomy bag for a little bit of for a couple of months. I couldn't eat or drink anything for a couple of months, so they gave me TPN, which is IV nutrition, and they put a port under my chest so I would have IV nutrition through there. And so it was a long, long healing journey, and I still have bumps in the roads today, which is why we created this, obviously, because we have our slip ups. And so that is my story.
I'm serious when I say it doesn't get easier every time. Like, I have to hear it, which I've heard it a few times now, and each time I just pick up on something new because it's the way you tell it's so vivid, and it's scary, really scary, but it's a testament to like what's made you into who you are today, that you've gone through all that and you have a different outlook on life because of it.
But complete, perspective shift when something like that happens. It changes your entire view on life. I've, since then I've made it my goal to, make any dream that I have happen. And one of those dreams was to be a news person, which is exactly what I do in Cincinnati, Ohio. I didn't start in Cincinnati, but also part of the goal was to do the news for my hometown, which is Cincinnati. So, I checked that off. Um, just not to take anything for granted and to live my life. I was going through this cycle of avoiding death and not really embracing life. And there's a complete difference between, living your life to the fullest, embracing it, feeling each moment versus avoiding death. And so now I just, strive to make it that I want to live instead of just go through the motions.
It's so crazy. Like, you had to learn that lesson as a teenager. Most of us have to learn how to live and not just survive as an adult and what that really means, like balance and everything. But I
Yeah, and
mean,
I love that I was able to learn it so young because it helped me get through a lot of trials and tribulations of life. And um, I will say it, you realize what matters and what doesn't from a young age. And obviously, we're still going to worry about dumb, minute things here and there, but for the most part, I have been able to have a little be able to tell the difference of, yeah, you know what, this doesn't matter type of thing. So,
yeah, you let it roll off your
yeah.
back a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
But dang, I mean, when you were going through it, you were a teenager, so that means, was it your senior year?
It was my senior year. Yeah. So I missed most of my senior year of high school. And
That's
it,
nuts.
it was it was a bummer to miss my senior year of high school for sure. But all things considered, I'm so glad that I was able to live. It doesn't even matter. I was still able to graduate in top 10 of my class. My teachers were amazing. My principal,
Wow.
amazing. Susie Gibbons, shout out to Susie Gibbons. It's funny, she actually lives down the road from me here now.
No kidding.
She does, yes. Once the weather gets warmer, we're gonna go on some walks. But I've met her for coffee a few times, and she's a wonderful woman. And gosh, that like I just feel so blessed to have been, going where I was going. Everybody, such a supportive community around me to help me really pull through.
That's awesome. I'm
Mm-hmm.
It's so great that you had that.
Yes, yes. So Nicole, I think it's time you tell your story.
Whew. Okay, well, it's so funny because my story is very similar to Elena's in that I was very active. I was, unlike her, I was in my 30s when I started noticing a pain that was starting in my abdomen and then shooting down my leg. So naturally, being a person who was an avid fitness person, I in California here, I started off as I was a professional dancer in Miami before I moved here. I was on the Miami Heat. Go Heat. And when I moved here, I switched more to acting, but I did a lot of fitness modeling at the time because I was still in like the best shape of my life. So it was like 5 or 6 days in the gym per week. I was obsessed with getting the booty. And when I was a dancer, I pulled my groin a couple of times. So my first thought when I started getting this pain was, oh my gosh, I pulled my groin again. But there was something a little bit different about it. I couldn't really, I can't really describe how it was different, but I just, instinct said it was different. But I did what I knew how to do. I went to physical therapy, and then when that wasn't really working, I went to a chiropractor and got adjusted a lot because, maybe it's a pinched nerve that's wrapping around my back and shooting down my leg. That's my thought process. And it didn't occur to me that it could have been something more serious until, a couple months into the therapy and the chiropractor visits. I was getting trigger point therapy done on my upper thigh. And every time he pressed on this trigger point, I felt sick and I would pale out and I would get the cold sweats. And I was just like, this is not normal. So I finally asked him, I was like, what side is your appendix on? And he looked at me and he goes, that side. And phew, that's when the alarm in my head went off. I was like, girl, you need to go to the hospital. So I drove myself to the hospital. I went to the ER. And I mean, I was at that point, I didn't realize how sick I was. I was sick as a dog. And I'm walking in there. I mean, I couldn't stand up straight. And we did a CT scan and nothing really out of the blue. But I was still in so much pain and they couldn't figure out why. And I was just like, test me for a hernia. And they were like, you don't have a hernia. So they sent me home with the whole speech, come back if you're in more pain. So I literally came back the next day because I was in even more pain. And this was a vicious cycle for a couple of months as I tried to get doctors to test me for a hernia because I was thinking to myself, okay, pain shooting down the leg. There's a possibility I could have torn something and I'm maybe strangling a piece of my intestine in it. That makes sense. I mean, I'm no doctor, but come on. And nobody would test me for a hernia. I literally had a doctor ask me where it hurt. And when I showed him, he took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. He's like, show me where it actually hurts. Don't show me where you think your hernia is. And I was just like, oh my God, these doctors
Wow.
are nuts. And at this point, I started getting worse and worse. About 6 months after my initial pain started, I noticed by the end of the day, I would get so distended. I would look like I was a few months pregnant. And it got to the point where I could not even go to the grocery store because I would get so distended and the rubbing of everything would just cause me to be so sick that I would be I would be in bed for a couple of days. And finally in the ER, I Googled on my phone because I just couldn't get any answers. They were just trying to feed me pain pills. And I Googled on my phone, mystery abdominal pain women. And the first thing that came up was a New York Times article about Dr. Tofai, a specialist who finds hidden female hernias, like hernias that women have been agonizing over for 5 years. The average person was suffering for 5 years or something. Crazy. So I was just
Wow.
I'm going to go see this woman. So I went to see Dr. Tofai, and at first she thought the same thing. Okay, you've got leg pain. This sounds like you might have a hip problem, but we'll get all the scans done. We did MRIs. So I got an MRI, and at first, nothing popped up. So she calls me and she calls me into her office and she shows me, I don't know how to read an MRI, and she shows me, she's like, okay, looky here, looky here, looky here. And she goes, look at the shape of your bladder. She goes, your bladder is being crushed. And I think it's being crushed by your intestine. But your intestine shouldn't be this large. It's only this large if you have something that is called a cecal volvulus. So unlike Elena, my volvulus was in my large intestines. It was just crazy because it was the first time where I was like, oh my gosh, I have an intestinal problem. And she told me, indeed, you do have a hernia, but you have a direct inguinal hernia, which means that you're ripping from the inside out. And usually patients that we see this in are either diabetics or obese. And guess what? I'm not either one of those things. So it was very interesting. And even with the diagnosis, I went back to my other doctors because we weren't in the same network, Dr. Tofai and I. And the other doctors were like, well, we don't know what to do with this. So even if we did, it probably wouldn't help your pain. So we're not going to do anything about it. And for a few more months, that was every doctor that I talked to. We don't know what to do with this. We don't know what to do with this. And I could tell that my intestine was twisting and untwisting because I would be, really, really nauseous, really fatigued, having a hard time. But then sometimes I would just buckle over, literally drop to the floor. And it's so embarrassing when that happens and you're in a Victoria's Secret trying to buy panties and you just drop to the floor and everyone's like, call an ambulance. And I'm like, don't call an ambulance. But really they should have called an ambulance because at any moment I could have been you.
You absolutely could have. You really lucked out. I mean, I can't say you lucked out because obviously your situation's not lucky. But given what could have happened, you lucked out.
Major. And it was all because all these doctors for so long were telling me that it was in my head, that they didn't know what it was. They were giving me pain pills that were making it worse. They were making me feel like a hypochondriac. So when I felt that bad, I just told myself, unless you're dying, girl, you got to push through this. So it was nuts. And finally, I got a doctor recommended by Dr. Tofai. I went to see a surgeon. And when I tell you all the tests that I went through, Something called a defecography is not cute. It's where they put radioactive materials inside of you using what resembles a caulking gun. And then they take x-rays of you on a fake toilet.
Wow.
Yeah, not cute.
I've never
And-
heard of that. Oh my gosh.
Oh, and I got multiple of these like done because there's one that they do with like a CT or an MRI. I can't remember which. And then there's one that they do with an X-ray where you're like literally sitting on like a fake toilet. And there is not one doctor there. There's like 4 watching you do this. And it is so embarrassing. But yeah, we were getting different results every time. Everything was coming back inconsistent. And then finally my surgeon sat me down and was like, listen, we're going to have to talk about this. You know, if we do exploratory surgery, like we might not be able to fix it. And I just knew in my heart that that wasn't true. So it was just like, do it. So I got a laparoscopic surgery done in April of 2019. And when I woke up, my mom was like, they found it and you were right the whole time. They removed my cecum, which was what they explained looked like an overstretched balloon. And then they also removed part of my sigmoid colon, which if you know anything about your colon, it's like the U-shaped part that goes over top of your small intestine. And they told me that the left side looked like it was coiled like a snake. And I was living with that for a year and a half. And the amount of relief to just know that like I was right, there was a problem, we got it fixed, all because like I fought and my family fought and like my, medical warrior, Dr. Tofi, fought for me to get that surgery. I can't even explain to you what a huge difference it's made.
And that goes to show how important being your own advocate is. And
Yeah.
obviously if you have your support system to advocate for you as well,
Yeah.
but if you know your body more than anybody else knows your body. You're the only one who really truly knows your body. And
Yeah.
if something doesn't feel right, something doesn't feel right and you need to get it checked out. Don't always listen to, oh, that can't happen to you because you're blah, blah, blah. Or, yeah, that typically doesn't present in someone like how you are, If you know something's not right, fight for how you feel.
100%. And what's crazy is I still shut down around doctors because I feel like there's a certain amount of respect that I have to give their word and their attention. But sometimes it could just be so dismissive when you don't have that backbone and you can't stand up for yourself and be like, no, but I feel this way. And that happened again. Immediately after my surgery, I had a massive infection and went septic and had to be hospitalized for 5 days. And I had an abscess, and though it was tiny, the abscess had actually gotten into the walls of my intestine where I had the initial surgery and made them rock hard. So I couldn't do peristalsis, which is when your, intestine moves, like the locomotion of your intestine. So I had to go get, after several months of, them thinking that maybe you've got your nerves bundled up in there, which happens sometimes with surgery and you get pain. The extreme nausea was just a cue to me that something is still very wrong. I was still on pain pills, even a month after my infection and being hospitalized. And so I had to go get another surgery. And when I got that surgery, we did another resection of my colon. And I got a bowel obstruction while in the hospital, which caused my peritoneum to split open, which is the clear sheeting that holds all of your guts in. And I got an internal hernia that started strangling my small intestine. So I had to get emergency internal hernia repair.
Wow.
Ish can
We've
go
both
wrong.
been through the journey, yes.
Yeah. It's really scary. Getting bowel surgery of any kind or intestinal surgery it has the highest rate of infections. Because, come on, It's doo-doo. Like you're gonna do the prep and everything, which that prep is baloney. Like that it is no joke. If I never have to do a prep another day in my life, I will praise the Lord, but that's not
I
realistic.
I cannot say that I've ever had to do the prep other than colonoscopies
Yes.
because my surgeries have all been emergent.
But I mean, even for
So
a
I
colonoscopy, it's the same thing.
yeah.
It's the same prep, and it is brutal. So all of my
Yeah.
girls and gals out there who are going through that or will go through that, you can do it, but just know like it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be real tough.
You're gonna be hugging the porcelain throne.
Yeah, but you're gonna look real good after.
Oh
Just
my goodness.
truth.
But yeah, so um I would say so how are you doing now, Nicole?
Well, I'm still kind of going through it, even though I don't have the pain as much anymore, and my scars have healed, even though they're not that bad. I got laparoscopic, so they're pretty small considering everything that happened. But now I'm just discovering all of a sudden I have huge food sensitivities that don't make sense. You know, Elena, like you have to switch up your diet once you have bowel surgery because like you can no longer digest certain vegetables.
Yes.
Like don't even try giving me broccoli. Like that's just not gonna happen.
Oh, I can't eat any vegetables at all.
Can you have smoothies? Like if they're like
No. I can't have fruits. I can't have fruits or vegetables.
that is tough. And then I have the opposite problem as you. I can barely digest proteins and fats, which is not fun. And we don't know why.
Yeah, so I basically live off of meat and white bread. Like basically meat, cheese, and white bread is what I live off of. Which hey,
Yeah.
fine by me. Can't ask for anything better than that, right?
Yeah, you're like a
yeah,
charcuterie board diet.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I never thought of that. I am. So just make all the charcuterie boards my way. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect. The adult lunchable. As they're
Yes,
called.
that's what I call it. Yes.
Yes.
Can you have wine,
Love
though?
it. No, because there's too much sugar. I can't. I'm missing the part of my intestines that digest sugar as well. So I can't have wine. The only alcohol that seems to go with me is vodka.
I was just about to say vodka. Thank God for vodka.
Yeah, like because there's no sugars in it. Easy, no carbonation. So
Oh,
vodka
rough.
seems to be the easy one for me.
But, going back to our stories, I think it's so important, I think, to share what you've been through and be vulnerable with people about the struggles that you've gone through in your life, because you never know who's reaching out or looking for something to hold on to because they're going through something,
Exactly. And, we just hope to be that outlet for you. If you don't have anybody to turn to, know that you can always reach out to us, whether it be through our Girls with Guts Instagram page or our own personal pages. If you don't have anybody to turn to or to talk to or feel alone with whatever it is that you're dealing with, we are here for you.
Exactly. And, speaking of Instagram and everything, some of our guests that you're going to be introduced to, we met through building community on Instagram, through finding the Spoonies and finding the Crohn's Warriors. We're so proud to create this platform to share their stories with you and to connect with you and educate you in some cases about, what people are going through. Of all ages, but we're especially excited to be talking to people who are around the young adult ages in their 20s and 30s who are experiencing these things, which we're not told that we're going to go through this at our age. We're expecting it all to hit when we're like, a little bit older, but
Exactly.
alas.
And it doesn't, and we won't even talk to, we won't talk to people only battling, intestinal illnesses. We'll talk to people battling any chronic illness too. So we're not really pigeonholing into the intestine world. So any chronic illness. We'll also have medical experts on here to talk about, their point of view with various things that people deal with. So that's what you'll be hearing when you come listen to us.
And we're thrilled to be bringing this to you. We're thrilled to open up this conversation and this portal to a world not just about, complaining and being a downer about what we've been through, but these are stories of survival and coping mechanisms that help people thrive. And that's what we're all about. Bringing us up when we've already been, kicked down, because life does that to us sometimes. And
it sure does.
Yeah. Or like our original, like we were playing around with the tagline, like, just because things are breaking, you don't have to break down. And that's
exactly
what we're going to be focusing on. So we really hope that you'll join us. Make sure that you listen to us through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can follow us.
I'm at Elena Martella on Instagram.
And I'm at the Nikki D. And our Instagram for the podcast is Girls with Guts Podcast.
And we will be making these episodes for you weekly. So, of course, be sure to tune in and give us feedback. If you find something that you relate to, if you find something, oh, wow, that really struck a chord with me, reach out. We love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you. And, if this podcast isn't for you, more than likely, somebody who it is for, who might be going through something new or just needs somebody to listen to and connect to. So please share with your friends, family. We'd really appreciate the love.
Absolutely. And until next time, everyone, stay bold.
Stay gutsy.
And namaste.